Good evening, everyone. Thought I'd do a quick show. Transfer talk. 12th man's back. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all enjoying the weekend. Gonna go through some tweets. Gonna go through some transfer news. It's all gonna be Arsenal related. So please make sure you do me a favour. There's already 50 of you in here. That means there should be some likes already on the video. Please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you hit subscribe. They are the two things I need you all to do. And I'm going to keep asking for it now because a lot of people don't listen. Do you know over 50% of the people that watch me don't subscribe? That's crazy. I looked at the analytics today. So please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and you hit the like button. We're going to talk things Arsenal. We're going to talk a little bit about Ornstein and Romano and what they're tweeting out. We're going to talk a little bit about Merino. We're going to talk about another midfield target that Arsenal are looking at, and you will know him very well. We're going to talk about the goalkeeper fetish that Mikel Arteta seems to have. There's a lot of people, rival fans in particular, talking about the fetish that Mikel Arteta has of signing goalkeepers, but there is definitely a plan on goalkeepers. So we're going to talk a little bit on that. And we're going to talk about the striker option, which has seemed to have gone completely quiet. Are Arsenal going to sign a striker? Are we going to go for a winger, or are we going to go for both? Or are we going to go for neither? That's what we're going to be looking at. We are going to touch on the Calafiori deal as well, because it's been quite clear now what is expected to happen over the coming days. So let's get to it. We are going to start, of course, with the news that Harry Kane and Gareth Southgate in their press conference are buzzing for tomorrow. And I don't want to go too much into this, but all I want to say is I really do hope that football is coming home. I do believe that we can beat Spain, and I do believe that we will beat Spain. Do I think it will be easy? No. I actually think that we might do them in extra time. And if I had to put money on it, I would go with 2-1 England in extra time. Does Spain have the ability to batter us? Yes. Do England have the ability to win? Yes. This is why nobody really knows where this one's going to go. Nobody is chucking money on Spain or England because, let's be real, people are holding fire. I think it could be an excellent game, or actually it could cancel each other out and be quite a close game and tight nick. So I think we've got to keep an eye on this one tomorrow in being potentially a result that might shock. And I don't know if England winning would shock or Spain winning would shock, but whatever way you're looking at it, I think could happen. So I don't know where my money's on at the moment, but if I had to, I would be patriotic and lump it on England. So let's see what happens. Big up to everybody that's just joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, please. Make sure you've subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell. If you do want to join as a member, you can do. All you've got to do is click as join. It's a real minimal fee and it will do a lot to help the channel. But please, please hit the like and the subscribe button. I beg you. Listen, we're going to start with Arsenal tonight. That's all we're going to talk about is the news that is surrounding the football club. And I want to start with Calafiori because, let's be real, it is the deal that looks closest to happening. Bologna do want £50 million. Now, I quite understand why. There's a lot of people that were looking at Calafiori. He's very highly rated. He's a player that they don't want to lose. They certainly don't want to lose him for cheap. There's definitely some negotiation going on as far as Arsenal are concerned, who would like to play closer to 40. So what is now happening is there's going to be a little bit of a scenario where 3 years ago, Ben White was £50 million in Brighton's eyes, but Edu and Arteta thought he was closer to 40 million. This sounds very, very similar to this one. I imagine Arsenal in the coming days will get this one done and it will be closer to 50. It might be that we agree on 45 million plus add-ons. It might be we agree on 42 million plus add-ons. I think they want close to 50 million. So that's what we're being told. Fabrizio Romano seems to be putting out the same tweet pretty much, suggesting that Calafiori to Arsenal will get done. Calafiori does want to come to Arsenal. There is no talks of this one breaking down. There's no worries that this one is potentially going to be breaking down. So please don't start to believe that Arsenal are going to no longer be in the hunt for Calafiori. I don't think we're in a bad relationship with Bologna, so it's not like Bologna are going to throw the towel in and say, no, we're moving on, we're keeping him. Calafiori has pretty much said he wants Arsenal, and Romano says that Bologna's Calafiori is closing in on a Gunners move, and it is looking likely that it's going to be 50 million or closest to. So let's keep an eye on this one. I think this one could move in the next couple of days towards an Arsenal signing. I really like the signing, and it's one that I look at and feel like it's an upgrade on the Jacob Kivior or Sinchenko's of this world. Tavares looks to have gone to Lazio and he looks to complete a medical, so that will be a loan with obligation to buy of £7 million. I like that. I think that is a really good deal. So Tavares is one that has 100% decided to move on. So I'm happy with that. So the left back scenario looks pretty simple. I think Timber and Tomiyasu are there. Zinchenko's there. And of course, Calafiori coming in can play there or left centre back. Big up to Josh Joe, absolute legend, who has redirected. What an absolute hero. Make sure you go and follow this guy. Joe is a regular on the channel. Joe is a legend. Joe is one of the best content creators out there. So please make sure that you go and follow him, man. Absolute legend for redirecting. I much appreciate that. A big up to all you Leeds fans, man. Big up to all of you. I really hope it's your year, and I hoped it was your year last year. I really do. This year, let's hope, man. Let's hope. Let's hope and pray. I was gutted for you in the playoff final. If I'm honest, I love my Southampton mates that I know and the reps that I've got on the channel. But I didn't want Southampton away. I wanted Ellen Road away. That one of the best away days, without a doubt. I always remember going there when we absolutely hammered you and you guys were singing Bielsa's name at the very top of your lungs when you were 4-1 down. And I thought, wow, what a fan base. So big up to all of you, man. Absolute legends. And yeah, the Premier League needs Leeds, in my opinion. I've always said that. I never wanted you to go down. I wanted you to go up. And that means I want you to win the league this year, man. So hopefully you can keep on to some of your players, man. I hope you can keep hold of Somerville. I hope you can keep hold of Nonso. I hope you can keep hold of Rutter. 3 players that I think will definitely fire you to the Premier League, man. So let's hope and pray for sure. You want any of our players on loan? Feel free. If you want, let me think. Who could you get that would be that you might want? Kieran Tierney, do you fancy him going down to the Championship? I like Kieran Tierney, but maybe you fancy him. Maybe you want some of our youngsters. Maybe you want Lewis Skelly, who's a very talented boy. Maybe you want Ethan Waneri. Maybe you want to look at Chido Obi Martin, who is absolutely firing him in for fun in our youth setup. Maybe you want to take some of our backup players. I don't know. But let's be real. I'm for sure a fan. So big up to all of you for coming over, man. You're absolute legends. I really appreciate that. Take Eddie Nketiah back. Yeah, do you know what? Go for it. I actually thought he did a right at Leeds. I know Bielsa fancied Patrick Bamford more, but he did a number at Leeds for a few games, didn't he? Scored some goals. So yeah, big up to you, man. Big up to you. I hope that Leeds do it. I really do. I'll be watching and following your results. So I really hope that you do it, man. Let's talk about a deal that has got done away from Arsenal because it's linked with Arsenal, and that's Onana. Onana to Everton. I think it's a good signing, but it's 50 million quite a lot. I think potentially it is. I think that's quite a lot of money. I'm not sure how ready Onana is to go to that next level, but at 23, he's certainly got the age and the potential to do it. Whether it's this season or you think it might be when he's 25, 26, 27, he's got the ability to grow in that Aston Villa side. Now, he's definitely coming in and starting. I imagine he'll start ahead of Kamara. So I imagine that he'll look at that midfield now, Emery, and go, there's quite a lot in there. There's 7 players. Onana to Villa. Did I say Everton? I'm sorry. It's late. Yeah, Onana, has gone to Aston Villa. So you've got Ross Barkley, who they've signed. You've got Onana in there. You've got Buendia, who's coming back from injury. Kamara is there. Tielemans is there. McGinn is there. Jacob Ramsey is there. There's 7 players in this Villa midfield. Surely some of those are going to be shipped out. Surely. I don't know how many, but I imagine there'll definitely be 1 or 2 that might be looking elsewhere now and thinking, where am I going to play? Where's my first team football? Now, I love what they're doing at Villa because I feel like Emery is looking at that and believing that there is a midfield that is probably one of the most important positions on the pitch. And they're looking at the strength in depth. Jacob Ramsey has been touted with a swap deal with Spurs. I don't know if that's going to happen. So keep your eyes peeled on that one. And I imagine they'll look at Buendia and see if he's actually the player they want to be keeping. So if I had to put my money, it would probably be those 2 that potentially could be looking to leave. But listen, I could be wrong. But certainly Barkley and Onana has definitely boosted Aston Villa's midfield for sure. And that for me is a positive 100%. Arsenal links with Onana, but I never really believed that he was going to come to the club. I never believed Onana was going to be that guy that could be the one that takes over from Thomas Partey. It's not that I don't believe he's good enough. I just believe that Thomas Partey is better and Onana isn't an upgrade on Partey. That doesn't mean he's not good enough for Arsenal. Doesn't mean he's not good enough for, the Premier League. It just means for me that it wouldn't have been one that I got excited about. But certainly for Aston Villa, he's going to come in and Emery's going to get the best out of him. Emery apparently wants this player. A lot of it was on Unai Emery. So for me, looking at that signing, I'm quite impressed by that, by what Aston Villa are looking at doing. He's going to replace Douglas Luiz, who I think they will miss because I think he's a top talent, but he certainly is going to come in, at least be Premier League proven. He's been impressive at Everton. 50 million is quite a lot of money, but Aston Villa aren't afraid to splash the cash on a player that they do want. So I think we've got to look at this. Maatsen coming in at left back as well. I think he'll come into play. They'll probably lose one of Luca Dean or Merino. So I believe keep your eyes peeled on one of those leaving. But Maatsen will come in, and I think he's got potential to be a very good player. So, yeah, Unai Emery, fair play to you, man. Fair play. Let's see what happens. How many likes we got, people? What we on likes-wise? 112 likes. I like that it's over 100, but let's get it towards 200, please, people. There's over 300 people watching already. That's amazing stuff. So please make sure that you do that. Let's go back to Arsenal because that was what I wanted to talk about. Calafiori, we've spoken on. Good defender. Hope it gets done. Looks to be close. Looks to be wrapped up soon. Hopefully we go towards that 50 million, what they want, and just get the deal done. But I wanted to talk to you about goalkeepers. Now, I am very surprised that we don't have a set goalkeeper before now. It looks like we're still trying to work out who our first choice, second choice, and third choice is. Now, we all know one thing. David Raya is the number one at Arsenal. That's done and dusted. Okay? Then what we do is we look at the backup. The backup at the moment is Aaron Ramsdale. Now, Aaron Ramsdale is obviously over in England, so he's not going to get a move anytime soon. Arsenal put £50 million price tag on his head. Now, I think that is fine if you want to do that. But I really, really do not think we're going to get £50 million. Excuse me, I really don't. I really don't. And it's not that that's crazy money by any means, because I think we would have had more chance of getting 50 million for him last summer, if I'm honest with you, after being in Premier League team of the season, going for a title, making world-class saves and keeping Arsenal in the title race for that amount of time. But I don't think we've got any chance of getting near that now. I think Aaron Ramsdale will try to get as close to 30 million as we can. And I think that would be fair for all parties. I think Aaron Ramsdale gets a decent move then. I think the buying club gets a decent goalkeeper. And I think Arsenal get a decent amount of money for him, considering he's a backup goalkeeper. So I think that is probably going to happen. Now, where does he go? I have no idea. I don't know if the top five are going to be interested in him. Certainly Manchester City aren't going to be, neither are Liverpool. I don't think that Spurs or Aston Villa will be interested in him. I certainly don't think that Newcastle will be now that they've brought in 2 or 3. Chelsea is a possibility, but from what I'm hearing, Maresca's looking at keeping what they've already got in Petrovic and Sanchez. And if they do want a goalkeeper, I think they'd probably look towards a Michael Mignon or a Diogo Costa or somebody like that at Chelsea. Manchester United have got Onana, and I don't think they're going to want Ramsdale because he's going to come and sit on their bench, because I imagine that Onana will want to be number one with Ten Hag. So that's your top 7. That means you're really going to be looking at West Ham, Wolves, Brentford, Fulham, maybe go back to Bournemouth. They welcome him with open arms. Is Ramsdale going to want that? And are they going to be able to afford, 1, his wages, and 2, a £30 million price tag or more? So I think it's really interesting with where Ramsdale will go. Maybe he'll go abroad, but I think he'd probably like to stay in England. And the other thing you've got to think of is, if Arsenal don't get that money, I'd be keeping him. Seriously, I would. I would do not want to sell Aaron Ramsdale for anything less than £30 million. So I do not see that if there's anyone coming in for £30 million or under, that we're going to be able to sell him. So I personally feel like we should be keeping him if it is not anything less than that £30 million that we pretty much signed him for 2 seasons ago. And that was with a relegated side, nowhere near a title race, nowhere near Premier League team of the season, nowhere near world-class saves and the amount PR and kind of media coverage that he got in terms of his positive light. So I think we've got the potential to get some money for him back. But what does that mean for who we get in to replace Aaron Ramsdale? David Raya is definitely number one. We're not going to go and get a Costa or an Oblak or a Michael Mignon. We're not going to go and do that. But it does mean that we're going to have to go and get some players. Now, Gunner Blog have put out a tweet which suggests, I think it was yesterday, that this will probably be the case. Arsenal, he says, are in the midst of a dramatic overhaul of their goalkeeping department. David Raya is looking likely to be the number one. Now, there are two options at the moment for, there are three options at the moment for the other areas. Now, we know that Dan Bentley was wanted as the goalkeeper for third choice, and we are believing it is a third choice goalkeeper. The reason that we are looking at a third choice goalkeeper in the kind of ilk of Dan Bentley is because he would be homegrown quota. He's 30 years old, not expected to play many games, and would be quite happy to sit on the bench and be that homegrown tick for Champions League football and also for what's needed for our criteria to meet. And he's there if we need him. Now, Dan Bentley is somebody that our goalkeeping coach knows from his Brentford days, and he's also someone who would be happy to come from Wolves to come and sit on the bench. But we have kind of insulted the player and we've insulted the club by only offering £50,000. Yes, not £500,000, £50,000, which I make the joke that you probably can't even get a Bentley for £50,000, let alone a Dan Bentley footballer. So I think we might have insulted Wolves a bit too much there. So what are we doing now? Well, apparently we've put in a £400,000 bid for the Ajax goalkeeper, Tom Setford. Now, I don't know much about him, if I'm honest with you. I really don't. I can't sit there and lie and say that I know what this guy's about. But we have submitted the proposal for Tommy Setford. He's 18 years old from Ajax. He was born in Amsterdam, and he is the under-20 England goalkeeper. He's keen on the move. The Ajax sources say that we see Setford as a big talent, but his current deal expires in June 2025, and he is keen to come to England. Now, that would be the homegrown quota ticked, 18 years old, chance to grow, third choice goalkeeper, and he would tick a lot of boxes. I think he'd be happy to come and learn at Arsenal as well and grow as a player. And when you've got someone who's 18 years old, you can actually have him as a third choice to think, right, that's someone that we can now allow to look to grow and mould into what we believe would be a potentially good goalkeeper. So I kind of prefer that than a 30-year-old sitting on the bench you're not going to see. Now, Manchester City have done this with Richard Wright over the years, with Stuart Taylor over the years. They've done it now with Scott Carson, as everybody knows. So that will be interesting to see where we go here. And if we can actually get a goalkeeper in that would potentially want to sit and grow and learn and try to fight for his place at backup. So I can see one of these happening. And at the moment, it's looking more and more likely that Tommy Setford will be the guy that comes in, not Dan Bentley. But there is, of course, links with a number two goalkeeper that we believe will be a proper backup and a proper number two if Ramsdale is to leave. And that is Juan Garcia. Now, Juan Garcia is at Espanyol. He's not a player at Espanyol that I know a lot about. All I do know is that he is a player that is liked by the club and that Mikel Arteta is looking at. And I think that would probably be the more likelihood. So if I had to put a guess, I would agree with what Gunner Blog's saying here and tweeting out and suggesting that David Raya would be the number one, that if Aaron Ramsdale leaves, we would then replace him with Juan Garcia, who would be the number two, and Tommy Setford would come in to be the number three at Arsenal. And that is where the vision of the Arsenal goalkeeping regime or department is right now. There's going to be a revamp. There's going to be a restructure. And if I'm honest with you, it seems weird that we're doing this a few years on. We actually, in my opinion, had the best goalkeeper who was already there when Mikel Arteta arrived, and that was Emi Martinez. And we decided to go with Leno, who we then sold for £3 million to Fulham the following summer after receiving 17 from Villa, which was an absolute bargain. For me, one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League behind Ederson and Alisson, Emi Martinez. So I don't know why we got rid of him. He looked perfect for what we needed. And unfortunately, we decided that we would try to let him go, keep Leno, and then we brought in Ramsdale. And the same thing happened. Leno and Ramsdale were fighting. Then we brought in David Raya. Raya and Ramsdale were fighting for places. I think now what he's decided is to have one clear number one and one clear number two. And I think that's what we're going to have now. And in fact, we're not going to have a 1 or 2. We're going to have a 1, 2, 3. So maybe it's a good thing for Arsenal. Maybe Arteta has just decided that actually that wasn't a good idea to bring two number ones in, to not have a number one. He came out and interviewed, didn't he, in the press conference and talked about it, and it was quite cringy, if I'm honest. Everybody knew that Real was going to be number one and that Ramsdale was going to get dropped, but he wouldn't admit that. So, yeah, I think it needs to be a number one and a number two now. Here we go. Jason Darling says, Leeds fan here. Surely it's third time lucky for Arsenal this season. Do you know what, bruv? Let's go for a Leeds win and an Arsenal win. Come on. Let's hope it's that. Big up to everybody who's in the chat. Big up to all of you Leeds legends that's come over to talk all things Arsenal and football and transfers. Absolute legends from Just Joe. I totally appreciate that. Please hit the like button. If you are with us, we're on 149 at the moment. Let's get that up to 200, please. It's nearly 400 in here, so we could easily do that. So let's make sure that we are supporting the channel. So we've spoke defenders, we've spoke goalkeepers. We need to talk about midfielders. And the reason we're going to talk about midfielders is because for me, Arsenal need to look at this as a priority area. The reason it needs to be a priority area for me is because we cannot rely on Jorginho and Partey to be playing any more than 15 to 20 games this coming season. And the reason we can't do that is not because they're finished. It's not because their legs have gone. It's actually because they're getting to an age now where they can't be relied upon because of their fitness. Now, Jorginho at 32, to be fair to him, has actually been quite a good signing at Arsenal for a squad player. He's not one that comes in and lights up the place, but actually there's been some really important performances from Jorginho, particularly last season at the Emirates. I thought against Liverpool, Manchester City, he was our best player at home. I thought he was phenomenal. And if I'm honest with you, there are certain games that I really think we need a Jorginho in the team. And certainly when he's played in that double pivot with Declan Rice, he was really impressive. For Thomas Partey, I think when everybody plays up to their best and everyone's fittest, I think he's our best player. I really mean that. Like when everyone is at their best, I look at him and I go, oh my God, you know how to run a midfield. He sits there, he anchors, he dribbles past, he's got unbelievable work in transition, he's got brilliant pass of the ball, he's got absolute beast physical attributes. I love everything about him when he's fit. But the problem is the latter. He ain't always fit. And when he isn't fit, we're in a position where we have to try and replace him. Now, trying to replace somebody of the ilk of Thomas Partey and the class of Thomas Partey is very difficult. And I think that's where Arsenal are going to come unstuck. Declan Rice, he is a 6. He is an 8. We need to work out whereabouts we want to play him. Do we want him as the 6 or do we want him as the 8? And I think Mikel Arteta wants him as the 8. I think he sees him as the left 8. And if I'm honest with you, whenever you look at Declan Rice's performances, the media, the fan base, the rival fan base, they all say the same thing. He should be ball carrying and bombing it forward. That means he has to play in the 8. Now, it doesn't mean he's never going to play in the 6. It doesn't mean that he's never going to play in one position for Arsenal only. But certainly when you've got everybody fit and you think, where is Declan Rice's position? Well, I think it is in the left 8. Moving forward, ball carrying, driving forward with that ball. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to intercept or defend, because that's what a box-to-box midfielder does in that left 8 role, right? I think he's perfect for it. The problem Arsenal have got is there is nobody to cover for him, because Jorginho, Partey and Rice are actually 3 very good defensive midfielders in the Premier League. But as the left 8, we've literally got Declan Rice, because everybody else is forward-thinking, whether it's Fabio Vieira, too attack-minded, Martin Ødegaard playing in the 8, too attack-minded, Havertz playing in the 8, not really a position I want to ever see him in again. Emil Smith-Rowe, probably the best option, but not any defensive qualities that I look at and go, wow, yeah, you can do the job. So we need somebody who's going to be able to do that job. And it looks likely at the moment, from what is being tweeted out, that Mikel Merino is the guy that Arsenal would like. And there are reports today that indicate that Arsenal have major interest in Mikel Merino. And this has come from David Ornstein and, of course, James McNicholas from Gunner Blog. Now, the Real Sociedad players scored that fantastic header to send Spain into the semi-finals against Germany. While there's no guarantee of a signing, Arteta is a huge fan. Now, there's a few reports, sources that came out last week suggesting that Mikel Arteta is a massive, massive fan of Mikel Merino. Now, I didn't know much about him. So what did I do? I looked at him, but I looked at him in front of my eyes. I've had the advantage, like we all have, to see him playing in the Euros. And I've been quite a fan of him so far since I've been watching Spain. He hasn't played every single minute of every single game, but he has caused problems. He's caused havoc. 6'2", good attributes, comfortable on the ball, looks to keep things ticking in that midfield, shows some presence in that midfield as well. And he looks a little bit, I suppose, as close as you can get to Granit Xhaka, if I'm honest with you. I don't see a Granit Xhaka replacement at Arsenal. It's not somebody I look at and think, do you know what? I'm adamant that he's going to come in and play on Granit Xhaka's level and be that next kind of level midfielder that we need. It's not one that excites me. I don't look at that and go, right, he completes our midfield. But at the moment, he's the most realistic target. The other reason he's a realistic target is because I don't think he's got more than 1 year left on his deal. It might be 2 years tops. But he's also, at 28 years old, going to cost about £25 million. So he's got experience. He doesn't need time to fit or bed in, because he's a 28-year-old experienced head. He's not a 21-year-old coming from a different league that we're thinking, oh, how's he going to bed in? He might need a few weeks, but he's definitely not going to need a few months at that age. I also think that he's definitely got a lot to offer through the leadership qualities that I believe are very good, I hear are very good. It's not one that lights us up, people. It's not one that gets us fired up and ready to go, but it's certainly going to need somebody in there that can play that role after Declan Rice. I see Mikel Merino coming in to be a squad player. There is no way he's coming in to start. We're not going to be playing Rice, Merino, and Odegaard. That isn't going to be happening. Party Rice and Odegaard at the moment is the best we've got. And if Merino comes in, he's got to fight for his place to get into that left 8 position ahead of Declan Rice. That's going to be very difficult. So for me, it's about squad rotation. So that's what I've got to be looking at personally. I'm going to bring this up in the chat because somebody has said, wasn't he at Newcastle? Z, big up, my bro. Hope you're well. Yes, he was at Newcastle. Never really held down a place. And apparently, according to Pete, the Newcastle rep on this channel, who you all know, he was actually quite disappointed that he was leaving. I didn't really know that he played for Newcastle. I didn't really look at him and never ever believe he was fantastic when he did play. But so he has got a little bit of Premier League experience, not much, but he has. And it's a player that excites Mikel Arteta, but probably doesn't excite much of the fan base, if I'm honest with you. So that's the way I see it. Big up to all of you. There's 460 of you in here. Please make sure that you are hitting the like button. We've not hit 200 likes yet. That's our next target. Please make sure you do that. And you must, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel because it's free. So please make sure you do that. We're trying to get up to 30K. We're almost at 21K. I think we need about 30 people to get up to 20.8. So we're really getting close to that, 21, which means we need about 200 subscribers to get to 21K. So let's make sure we do that now. All we have to do is hit the like and subscribe button. It's absolutely free, people, and it does mean a lot to me. Now, keeping in midfield, the next player I want to talk about is Bruno Guimaraes. Now, I know Newcastle fans in the chat will go, oh, boring, bore off, yawn. He's staying at Newcastle. I will say this. I think Bruno will stay at Newcastle. But all I will do is share information when I read it. He had a release clause of £100 million. Nobody activated it. When Bruno Guimaraes had the release clause not activated, it looked as though he was now set to stay at Newcastle. Manchester City didn't release it. Arsenal didn't activate to release it. PSR, I think, got in the way. And also, from what I hear, the clubs did not believe he was worth £100 million like a Declan Rice would be. Now, I happen to think that Bruno Guimaraes is a fantastic player. At 26 years old, I think he's an absolutely wonderful footballer, one that can play in the 6, in the 8, Premier League proven. The stats are phenomenal when you read them. He has won the most fouls. He has got the most interceptions across the 5 top European leagues. His stats are right up there in terms of central midfield. Brazilian international. He's got everything about his game. He's got that little bit of nastiness, that little bit of shithousery that I quite like, that little bit of horrible to play against attitude. I think he'd fit fantastically well. And he'd probably be one of the number 1 signings for me this summer if we could have a perfect summer window, right? Where I'm at with this is there is a couple of rumours. They're not sources I massively trust. I will say that. But Team News and AFC stuff on Twitter and being retweeted by Eduardo Hagen is suggesting that it would not surprise me if Arsenal go back in for Bruno Guimaraes later in the window. Now, Newcastle are looking at 80 to 100 million pounds. We could afford that. Let's go in for it. Let's just start at 85 million pounds, see what they say. If we have to go to 90, 95, 100, let's do it. He's a player that would take us to that next level, in my opinion. Big up to Gary, who says, great content, just subscribe. You're a legend, my friend. Make sure that all of you are doing the same as Gary and hitting that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 30K, but I'd love tonight to get to 21K, which we're very close to. So if you just hit the subscribe button, it's absolutely free. Even if you're new to the channel and think, I might not watch this guy again, but you know what? I'll leave him a subscribe because it's free. That would be really, really much appreciated. Honestly, it would. Like and subscribe does so much for the channel to try and help grow it. And that's what we're trying to do here as a community. So please make sure you do that. We have hit over 200 likes. You guys are legends. Thanks so much, man. Subscribers are going up too. You're absolute heroes, man. Absolute heroes, all of you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. There's nearly 500 of you in here. I like to try and get to 50% at least by the time that we finish. So now our next aim is for 250. Seeing as there's 500 people of you in here nearly, that would be amazing. So please make sure you hit that like button, people. I'm sure there's some of you that haven't done it already. And it takes 2 seconds. If you want to stay in the live chat, it's cool. All you've got to do is press the cross, hit like, hit subscribe, click live chat, and you're back in it. Takes 2 seconds, people. So please make sure you do that. Bruno Guimaraes. The reason I'm a huge fan of him is because I believe he would slot into that midfield perfectly at Arsenal. And I think it would probably be able to be near enough on par with Manchester City as being one of the best in the Premier League in terms of midfield. I think that, yes, they've got Rodri, KDB and Foden that you'd probably look at and go, yeah, all 3 of them are better than what Arsenal have got. But you know what? Arsenal are right behind them there because Rice, Erdegaard and Bruno G would be a phenomenal midfield trio. Now, I think he probably will end up staying at Newcastle. I don't want Newcastle fans to believe, oh, Dan Potts said that he's coming to Arsenal. I've not said that. All I am saying is AFC stuff, Eduardo Hagen and, Team News are reporting that Arsenal may go back in with a bid for him. That doesn't mean he's signing. Doesn't mean he's leaving Newcastle. But it does mean that Arsenal were interested in the player. I know for a fact that Arsenal were looking at him when he was at Lyon. I don't know why we didn't go for him because back then he was about 28, 29 million. So I do believe personally there's a definite interest in the player. You got the Brazil link. He knows Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus. He knows Gabriel Magalhaes. He knows Edu. There will be a Brazilian link here. I think this would be a phenomenal signing for Arsenal. And I think it would be one that we could actually look at and go, boom, this is what we needed. So watch the space on this one. I'm going to bring up this player because Omar's coming with a great shout. This is another player that a lot of people are looking at. Manchester United, PSG, and Man City and Arsenal both looking at this player. Omar says, Dan, João Neves is the truth. He's already an elite baller at 19. He fits in perfectly in the 8 and he can play in the 6. I love him. I love everything about what I've seen from this player. He looks a very exciting talent, an absolute baller. And when I look at him, just, when you just go, wow, like his feet are like Santi Cazorla, mate. It is ridiculous how good he looks at 19 years old. But from what I hear, they want 115 million release clause or something crazy like that. I can't see us going for him, because I think that is a massive risk to pay, like Chelsea did with Enzo. What is this guy going to do in the Premier League? Does he just suit Portugal and look good? There's a lot of questions in my mind that are questions and question marks for sure. I like a lot about him. I think he would be perfect in the 8. But Bruno would probably be the guy that I'd go for because I know at 26 he's ready, he's Premier League proven, and he can go, boom, next level. And do you know what? I think he would complement Declan Rice and Erdegaard, and he'd make both of them even better as well. So that's the guy that I would want. There's links with De Jong a couple of seasons ago to the Premier League. I don't think that's going to happen, if I'm honest with you. So let's talk about a player that I think could still come to the Premier League in the midfield area, and that is Joshua Kimmich. Bayern Munich have been told they've pretty much got to sell before they buy. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to sell him, but he's one of the names on the list that could be on his way out of Bayern Munich. And Joshua Kimmich, 29 years old, experienced head, won everything in the game, fantastic in midfield, can play the 6 and the 8, has a lot of attributes that I think would be beneficial to Arsenal on and off the pitch in terms of his leadership. I think he's been phenomenal for Bayern Munich. He was brilliant against Arsenal, home and away, scored in the away leg to put them through, if you remember. And he's always been a good, steady Eddie head player for Germany. Wow, that was a tongue twister. So I think it would be really good. However, I'm not so sure that he is set on a club. I don't even know that he wants to leave Bayern Munich. He's rumoured at the moment. Now, he obviously is back from the Euros now. So hopefully Kai Havertz has had a bit of a word with him and said, look, come to Arsenal. I think he'd be brilliant for what we need. But I also think he'd be perfect for Manchester City as well. So if he was to leave Bayern Munich and he has a choice between Arsenal and Man City, I kind of can't but help think he probably would go to Manchester City. I think Manchester City see him as the Gundogan replacement, if I'm honest with you. They've not quite replaced him, have they? They've tried with Kovacic. They've tried with Mateus Nunes. They've not quite got there. I think they could try and do this. I think they could try and get Joshua Kimmich. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled on this one. Let's take a look at what we think might happen. And I think Joshua Kimmich, if he does leave, could be on his way to Manchester City. So watch the space on this one. As for strikers, there is absolutely nothing at the moment with Arsenal being linked with strikers. It's not a position at the moment that we're being linked heavily with There's not many players that we've been linked heavily with. Ivan Toney, I can't get that out of my head. I think it would be such an easy signing for Arsenal at 40, 50 million that he's being rumoured now to be linked with a move away from Brentford. Victor Gyökeres, today I saw that Terry was talking about it on the terrace about how we are still interested and that we would be linked with a move for Victor Gyökeres should he want to leave Sporting Lisbon. He's a player I really like, if I'm honest. I think the attributes are suited to Arsenal. I must say, I've been massively impressed by what I've seen from his time at Sporting Lisbon. I've been massively impressed by what I've seen from his time when he was at Coventry. People sometimes play that down and say it's a championship. We don't want a championship player. I get that. We don't. We don't want to be signing players on the championship. But sometimes you do get some gems. I know, obviously, when you look at what Chelsea have done with Dewsbury Hall, they're hoping he's a gem. Eze has been a gem. Elise has been a gem. Ollie Watkins has been a gem. Jack Grealish was a gem. Obviously, Ivan Toney as well. So there are some that do come in, and it works. Now, he's been good in the championship and pretty much single-handedly got Coventry to the playoff final, right? But over in Sporting Lisbon, he's bagged. I mean, he's put 45 GA, something crazy. Now, I like his attributes. I think he's 26, if I'm right. Don't think he's very young. Maybe I've got the age wrong. Might want to check that. Very physically imposing, very tall, good hold-up play, good all-round number 9 play, good with both feet, can actually shoot with both feet as well from what I can see. Some of his goals he scored with right and left foot. Good in the air as well, obviously, with his size. So this one could be okay. The problem you've got is I think they want 84 to 85 million pound release clause that they want somebody to activate. And that's going to be a hell of a lot of money to spend on a striker that could be a risk. I think Arsenal were rumoured to be interested to go in with something between 60 and 70. Let's see if we do. There's a lot of Arsenal fans that believe Arsenal might wait. And they might wait for Alexander Isak the following summer and check out the situation at Newcastle. He's happy at Newcastle. He doesn't want to leave from what we can see. He doesn't want to be the player who goes out the door. Interesting movement at Newcastle right now as well. With Amanda Staveley obviously leaving. They're looking to now go and pump some money in. Let's see where Newcastle go this season. Do Newcastle have a season where they get top 4? Do Newcastle have a season where they go out of Europe or that they squeeze in top 6? It's going to be interesting. Alexander Isak is the only player that would excite me this summer that's realistic. Now, people might think it's unrealistic because he doesn't want to leave Newcastle. Maybe that's the case. But if Arsenal put in a bid of 100 million, Newcastle will probably say, no, he's not for sale. But Alexander Isak would want to come to Arsenal over Newcastle. I'm sorry, he would. Like, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that he would go, I'd rather play one game a week than go and play Champions League. Like, honestly, man, like it's crazy for me to think that he would want to do that. So I think this is the last season Alexander Isak will have at Newcastle if they don't get Champions League football. And probably Bruno Guimaraes as well if he doesn't leave this summer. And that might be hard for Newcastle fans to hear, but Newcastle are playing with the big boys now. And I'm only saying this because I know this happens. It's happened to Arsenal. We lost Fabregas, we lost Nasri, we lost Clichy, we lost Toure, we lost Adebayor, we lost Sagna, we lost Alexis Sanchez, we lost Robin Van Persie. That's 8 players, and they all went because we weren't serious about winning the title. And that's what Newcastle players are going to get. If you start to get these big boys in, you've got to keep them happy by winning trophies or getting Champions League football regularly. And if you can't do that, they're going to look elsewhere. That's just the way it is. It's just facts, like real talk. So that's where I'm at. Do Arsenal go all out for him next summer? Or do we need a striker? Now, Curtis and I were talking about this, and we both believe that we do need a striker. Havertz starting up top, for me, isn't the option. Yes, he's good to have in the squad. £65 million a lot for a squad player. I get it, but I didn't pay it for him. But he is not good enough to start every single week up top at number 9. He's proved that for Germany. He missed sitters for them. He missed sitters for us. Jesus, likewise, isn't clinical enough. Good players, good footballers, and I have them around. But I need to see that number 9. So is it going to be Osimhen? Is it going to be Gyökeres? Is it going to be Ivan Toney? Is it going to be Dovbyk? Is it going to be someone that we don't even know yet? That's where we've got to go. So I would say keep an eye on the situation at Arsenal with strikers. Before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about the outgoings at Arsenal because Arsenal are actually looking at kind of a bit of a selling spree, if I'm honest. Obviously, Tavares has gone. Lokonga has gone to Seville with an obligation to buy of 12 million. That's a really, really good deal. Actually, I believe it's an option to buy. So those two have gone. We're looking at selling Aaron Ramsdale. We're looking at selling Kieran Tierney. Partey's future's still a little bit up in the air with Saudi Arabia that are still sniffing around. Emil Smith-Rowe is wanted, we believe, by Fulham. Reece Nelson is wanted, we believe, by Forest, Palace and West Ham. Eddie Nketiah, we are told, is wanted by Marseille and a few Premier League clubs. So that means we're going to be selling potentially 5 or 6 players in the coming days or coming weeks for quite a lot of money. Now, it might not be quite a lot of money individually, but actually what it is combined is quite a lot of money, because Arsenal will look at this situation right now thinking we could get potentially between 25 and 30 for Eddie Nketiah. We could get £30 million from Emil Smith-Rowe. We could potentially get 25 to 30 million for Thomas Partey if he does go Saudi Arabia. We could probably get 10 for Kieran Tierney, 30 for Aaron Ramsdale, 15 to 20 for Reece Nelson. That's 6 players there that I've just rolled off the tongue, with the Tavares and Lokonga deals that's coming into play as well. We could probably be looking at about £150 million in player sales there, which we can add to our budget of 200 million. And all of a sudden, Arsenal's spending spree looks to be over 300 million this summer, potentially, if we want to. That means we could afford the likes of the Alexander Isaks or Bruno Guimaraes of this world if we were to go down that route. Now, of course, the player's going to have to come to Arsenal and be available. And if Newcastle was saying, no way, we do have to move on. But they're the sort of guys that we can actually get. So I do believe, personally, there's a potential for us to actually have quite a big summer, if I'm honest. So we're going to have to look at it now and see where Arsenal are linked in the coming days. Calafiori looks to be coming in the door. Merino is probably likely to come in to be one of our midfield options. It looks like we're sorting out the goalkeepers. And then we can look at what else we're doing in midfield with that big player that we need in that left 8 or that number 6. And then we can look at the wide players. And that's where I'm going to end. I don't know who we're going to go for wide. Nico Williams, I get the feeling, will stay in Spain, and probably Barcelona is where he's heading. I don't think we're going to get a potential Pedro Neto situation, because as much as I like the player and know Arsenal do, I think the injuries may cause confusion for them and maybe a bit of concern. Tottenham look interested in him as well, so maybe he'll look to go there because he's guaranteed first-team football. But I do like the look and sound of Eze. And the reason I like the look and sound of Eze, 1, I like the fact that he's homegrown in English. 2, I like the fact that he's a baller. 3, I like the fact that he's versatile. And 4, I don't think 60 million is a lot of money for someone who can play in the 8, the 10, the right wing and the left wing. I think this would be a fantastic piece of business. And if I'm honest with you, it's a player that we know really well because we had him in our academy. He left when he was 12 years old. He's a player that I really like. So I think we should get this one done. I really do. And we might not be able to do it at the moment because his English is over, obviously playing the Euros. But I think he'd be a fantastic option to cover for Saka, to play on the left, to cover for Odegaard if he was to get a knock, to play in the left 8 if we needed him to. I think Eze would be a fantastic option for Arsenal. And one that I look at and think, yeah, do you know what? This makes sense all round. There's nothing about this deal that would not make sense. You don't look at the signing of Eze and think, where's he going to play then? That's a stupid signing. He's going to sit on the bench. Because I actually think he'll get a lot of game time. I think there'll be an opportunity for Eze to play quite a lot of football. And if we were not to bring anybody else in, other than just Mikel Merino and Eze, I think Eze could 100% get a chance. Let's see. Let's finish by talking about this player who's been linked today. Christian's brought him up. João Felix. João Felix is a guy that's been linked with Arsenal today. I'm going to say it. I've never really got it. I've never really understood it. When he burst onto the scene from Benfica and he was bought from them for, was it £105 million to Atletico Madrid? It never really worked for him, and everybody blamed Diego Simeone. But he hasn't really ever made it since he's left Diego Simeone. He's gone to Chelsea on loan, hasn't really done anything there. I don't think there's much that's going to happen for him. I think, didn't he go to Barcelona, or have I made that up? He's not really done much there. So for me at the moment, he's looking for a club. There ain't many that are looking at him. I think Aston Villa are one that are looking at him, potentially some of the Spanish clubs. I don't know. I don't look at him and think, wow. I just don't, man. I really don't. And I'd be quite disappointed if we were to put money towards this player, and particularly if it's a lot of money as well. But Arteta apparently and Arsenal are a fan of him. They've always admired him. They've always liked the player. I just don't think it's a good move. I really don't. And I hope that we don't go in for him. I don't think it would be a good signing, if I'm honest with you guys. I really don't. I don't look at him and go, you know what? This is proper baller. This is someone who's going to get us 20 to 30 goals. I don't see any difference between João Felix and Gabriel Jesus. In fact, I think Jesus is better. I don't see much of a difference in Kai Havertz and him. I think Kai Havertz is better. I'm not so sure that I rate him. And I never really have. Even when I saw him when he was supposed to be this world-class talent that's going to be next level, I thought, I like the fact Arsenal were linked with him when it was 3 years ago, because obviously there's a lot of people that are looking at him and wanting him. But I'm just not a fan. And, I know people are saying I'm crazy in the chat for not rating him. I've never seen him look that great. I've just never seen him settle at a club and go, this is my club. I'm going to bang in 20 goals, which is what a striker should be doing. I don't see what he's done that Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz haven't. That's all I'll say. So I want better than those two. I want like elite level. I don't want someone coming in to fight with Jesus and Havertz like Felix. No point of getting him. Might as well just keep bloody Eddie. Actually, that's a bit harsh. Maybe he's better than that. But I just don't believe he's an outstanding talent like some people do believe. Probably a good footballer. But is he going to take Arsenal to the next level? Not really. Not for me. Not for me anyway. Some people might believe so, but not for me. I can't see that happening if I'm honest. Going to be interesting to see though, that's for sure. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. I love reading the comments after every single video. I love the fact we've got a lot of interaction in the chat. I love the fact that you guys are liking and subscribing. Let's see what likes we're on now. There should be 250 by now. Is there 250? Yes, there's well over it. We're nearly at 300. You guys are legends. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well, yeah, people, because we are getting close to 21k. We're getting very close to 30k. I want everybody to hit the like button and the subscribe button for me now, because it's two things that are absolutely free, and I absolutely love the fact that that is a part of what you are doing. You're not just watching, you're hitting those buttons as well. Don't know what's happening in the world of transfers that's absolutely exciting, but Manchester United are moving pretty mad. I can't lie, I'm looking at the scenario of Manchester United, and I think every time I open something, they're linked. Manchester United are buying someone. Manchester United are linked with someone. That means the new structure is potentially working, right? That means that what we're seeing is there's an opportunity for Arsenal to be looking at for Manchester United to be looking at players that we believe that they want. Now, I'm a huge fan of what I've seen so far. If I'm a Manchester United fan, they need a little bit of restructure. They need some sustainability. They need a new plan. They need a new regime. Gerald Branthwaite looks like he's probably going to stay at Everton now, because Onana don't need to sell anybody else unless anybody wants to leave, that is, because Onana's got them the £50 million. They're fine with PSR now. They can go on and they can do what they want to do, which is spend, right? But Manchester United buying 3 centre-backs, I kind of get it. They've got Harry Maguire. They've got Jonathan Evans. They got Lindelof. Varana's gone. That leaves them with Roslandro Martinez, who's the only one really that is kind of guaranteed to be playing for Manchester United. And I wonder really if he was actually a centre-half. I've always thought he'd be better as a fullback. Like, I've never been a fan of like 5'8" centre-halves. I remember Mustafi. I remember Mustafi big time. But listen, Martinez is better than Mustafi. I must add that, because otherwise people will come for me. But Manchester United are looking at this situation now, thinking, yeah, I need to go and do some business here, to try and get the squad back to where it should be, and that's not going to be in one window. But I'm really interested to see Manchester United and Chelsea this season. A lot of people are comparing the two. I don't know why. They shouldn't be looking at each other. They should be looking at themselves. But Chelsea and Manchester United are going to be run so differently. And I really want to see two teams that are like this at the moment. Where do they go? Which one does better? Because Chelsea, in my opinion, are a mess because their ownership doesn't have a clue. Their ownership thinks the idea from getting top 4 is going, right, sack Poch and go and get that championship winning manager and get him to bring his star boy from the championship with him. That's the ownership at Chelsea. Manchester United at the moment have been all over the place. The ownership is still the Glazers, but they are now handing it over to obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's got in Barada, who's got in Jason Wilcox, who's got in Dan Ashworth. And I think they will now be selecting players they think can take Manchester United to the next level. So I think Manchester United at the moment have got a better structure and a better plan in place than Chelsea. But we will have to see where they're at. I think Chelsea have potentially got a better squad at the moment because they bought players that are all a lot of money and potentially going to be great when they're all fit. People forget the players Chelsea did miss last season. That's fair. But I do feel like Manchester United have a better structure in place now to go and do some business. And Manchester United always spend money, people, they do. So watch this space with Manchester United and with Chelsea. Aston Villa doing business, at the moment with Unai Emery. Tottenham, we're not hearing much, but obviously they're linked with players like Arsenal are. And the players they're linked with actually are good. Eze, Pedro Neto, Ivan Toney. They're linked with some good players, Tottenham. If they was to get those over the line, wow, Tottenham could be right up there next season. Real talk. Let's see what happens there. Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal at the moment, all fairly similarly, quietly. The only thing I will say about Manchester City is that they've got some outgoings. Julian Alvarez is preparing an exit from Manchester City. From what we hear, he looks to be putting in a transfer request. He's doing what Gabriel Jesus did, and that's get unsettled. He wants first team football. They can't offer him it. The other player that we're looking at is KDB to Saudi. That's got some legs from what I hear. I hope it happens because it gets him gone. He's been phenomenal for Manchester City for how long? 7, 8 years. Let's hope that he could be leaving. Jack Grealish, question marks over his future. This could be another season where Manchester City lose a few players. Now, Pep Guardiola doesn't normally let that affect him. We heard a couple of seasons ago, didn't we? Oh, Manchester City aren't going to be the same. They've lost Gabriel Jesus, Sterling and Zinchenko. They went and won the treble. Last season, we were told, oh, Manchester City are going to be difficult without Gundogan and Mahrez. They went and won the Premier League. I hate it, but it's just the way it is. So let's see. Let's see where we're at. We're going to wrap it up there, people. Make sure you do me a favor. Have we hit 300 likes? We should have hit towards it. We're 6 away, people. Who gets the 300 like? Put it in the chat. Just 6 of you need to hit the like button and then put it in the chat who hits number 300 by saying, I am the number 300. That's all you got to do is click the like button. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, people. Make sure you subscribe. We are very, very, very close towards 21k. We need to get up to 30k ASAP. So please hit that subscribe button now. It's absolutely free to do. It doesn't cost you a penny. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. That is the best thing to do to say that you've enjoyed the chat and the stream. So please make sure you do that. Somebody is the number 300. Somebody needs to put it in the chat. Whoever was number 300, put it in the chat because we're on 309 now. So please make sure someone's hit it. Number 301 likes. There we go. Tony, big up. Mr. Leo G, he's put a thumbs up. It must have been him. Thank you so much. Absolute legends for all of you for doing that. And please make sure that you've hit that subscribe button as well. People, gonna love you and leave you. I do appreciate all of your time. It's been fantastic in the chat tonight. The interaction has been phenomenal. I'm really, really impressed with it all. And I want to say thank you to all of you for supporting. Make sure you come back, hit that notification bell. I will be back tomorrow where, of course, we're going to be covering England. Of course we are, right? Of course. It is coming home, people. See you later.